If you enjoy real horror stories, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. It really helps us keep bringing these creepy stories to you. And at the end, leave a comment, tell us what you thought, or if you've ever experienced something similar. Now turn off the lights, and good luck. My name is Robert, and by the time this happened, I'd already spent 42 years in the same house, the one Elaine and I bought when our twins were still in diapers. After she passed, cancer, quick and cruel, the kids begged me to sell the place and move closer to them. But how could I? Every creak in the floorboards, every sunbeam on the kitchen tiles held her. At 68, I told myself I was too old to start over. For months, it was just me and the silence. Then, the silence changed. Little things, at first. I'd swear I'd shut the pantry door tight, only to find it ajar an hour later. The reading lamp in the den, the one Elaine always forgot to turn off, would flicker on by itself. I chalked it up to my memory slipping or the house settling like an old man's bones. But then, one rainy Tuesday, I opened my sock drawer and found her emerald hairpin lying on top of my folded shirts. That pin had been buried in a sealed box in the attic since the funeral. The air left my lungs like I'd been punched. I stood there, clutching the pin until the metal left dents in my palm. That night, I dragged the attic ladder down and climbed up, my knees popping, the wood groaning under me. The box labeled Elaine's Jewelry was right where I'd left it, except the tape was split clean, the edges curled like something had licked it open. Inside, her favorite scarf was gone. No dust, no signs of mice, just that empty space where navy blue silk should have been. I told myself I was being paranoid. But 3 days later, I woke at 3 a.m. to the scent of Chanel No. 5 clinging to the sheets. Elaine's perfume. The bottle had shattered in my grief-stricken haze months before. I lay there, frozen, until dawn. That's when I saw it. A shadow on the staircase, darker than the rest, sliding down one step at a time. Not a flicker, not a trick of light. It had weight. And then it paused, like it knew I was watching. I didn't sleep for 2 nights after that. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table with Elaine's old rolling pin gripped in one hand. Absurd, but it was the closest thing to a weapon I could grab without feeling like a madman. The house didn't just feel watched, it felt occupied. Mornings, I'd find the rocking chair in the nursery swaying gently, though the windows were shut. Even the thermostat played tricks. The heat would crank up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit on its own, just like Elaine used to do when her bones ached in winter. I called an electrician, a handyman, even a priest. The priest blessed the house, sprinkled holy water in the corners, and left with a tight smile. "Grief does strange things," he said. "But grief doesn't leave handprints on fogged-up bathroom mirrors, fingers too small to be mine." Our granddaughter's sighs, except she hadn't visited in months. Then came the whispers. Not voices, just the faintest brush of sound against my ear, like someone exhaling a secret too soft to decipher. It always happened near the basement door, the one with the broken latch I'd never gotten around to fixing. One evening, I yanked it open, half expecting, hell, I don't know what. The stairs plunged into darkness, smelling of damp and something sweet underneath, like rotting flowers. That's when I heard it, a thud from upstairs, followed by the unmistakable sound of Elaine's music box tinkling in the master bedroom. That damn thing hadn't worked in a decade. My legs shook as I climbed back up, but the bedroom was empty. The music box sat on her dresser, lid shut. When I lifted it, the gears were rusted solid. Yet for the rest of the night, the melody of La Vie en Rose kept looping in my head, note for note, the way Elaine hummed it while folding laundry. The breaking point came on a Thursday. I remember because trash day was Friday, and I'd just taken the bins out when I noticed the back door was unlocked. I never forgot to lock it, not since that break-in back in '09. My pulse hammered as I stepped inside, the floorboards whining under my weight. The living room was ice cold, though the thermostat read 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And there, on the coffee table, sat Elaine's crossword book, open to a half-finished puzzle with her loopy handwriting filling the squares. My knees gave out. I'd packed that book away myself, tucked it in a donation box months ago. But here it was, the pencil still wedged in the spine like she'd just gotten up for more coffee. That's when the bathroom sink turned on full blast down the hall. No pipes groaning, just water roaring out like someone had shoved the handle down hard. I ran, not away, toward it. Maybe I'd finally lost it, but I was done being haunted by crumbs of the past. The bathroom mirror was steamed over, and written in the fog in shaky capitals were the words, "Miss you." Not "I miss you," just "miss you," like a telegram cut short. The sink faucet was scalding hot, the room thick with steam and the scent of her lemony hand soap. I slammed the water off, my reflection wild-eyed in the mirror, and then I saw her. Not a shadow, not a trick. Elaine's face, pale but smiling, flickered behind me in the glass for less than a second. Her lips moved. No sound came out, but I knew what she'd said. It was the same thing she'd whispered to me every night before bed. "Sweet dreams, Robbie." My nickname, the one no one had used since she died. I don't remember collapsing, but I woke up on the bathroom floor with my cheek pressed against the cold tiles, the mirror wiped clean. For the first time since Elaine's death, I didn't feel fear, just a hollow, gnawing want. What if she was trying to reach me? That night, I did something stupid. I sat at the foot of the stairs with a glass of her favorite Merlot and spoke to the empty air. "If you're here, show me properly." The house held its breath. Then, a draft slithered past my ankles, and the wine in the glass rippled like something had dipped a finger in it. The temperature dropped so fast I could see my own breath. And then, God help me, I felt her. Not a ghost, not a shadow. The weight of a body settling onto the stair beside me, the wood creaking the exact way it used to when she'd sit there to tie her shoes. The scent of Chanel No. 5 wrapped around me, so strong I gagged. I didn't dare look. My hands shook so badly the wine splashed onto my pants, staining them purple. "Elaine," I whispered. No answer, but the pressure against my side shifted, and suddenly, something touched my left hand. Icy fingers lacing through mine, squeezing exactly 3 times. Our old signal. 3 squeezes for "I love you." That's when the sobs ripped out of me. I still couldn't see her, but I clung to that invisible hand like a drowning man, snot running down my face. Then, the moment shattered. The grandfather clock in the hall struck midnight, except it hadn't worked in years. The chimes were wrong, too slow, like each note was being dragged through molasses. On the 12th strike, the touch vanished. The cold lifted, and etched into the frost on my wine glass were 2 words, "Let Go." For weeks after that night, the house was silent again. No whispers, no shadows, no phantom touches. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it all. But then, on the anniversary of Elaine's funeral, I woke to the sound of humming. Not the music box this time. A real, throaty hum, the way Elaine used to do while making pancakes on Sunday mornings. It came from the kitchen. My body moved on its own, pulled toward the sound like a magnet. The second I stepped into the hallway, the humming stopped. The kitchen light was on, casting a yellow rectangle onto the hardwood. And there, in the center of the table, was a plate of perfectly golden pancakes, syrup drizzled in her signature zigzag. My stomach turned. They smelled exactly right, crispy edges, a hint of vanilla. But the skillet on the stove was ice cold, the flour tin untouched. I reached out to touch them, and the second my finger grazed the top pancake, it collapsed into a pile of dry, dead moths, wings crumbling to dust. I screamed. Not a man's scream, something raw and childlike, the kind of sound you make when the world stops making sense. I grabbed the plate and hurled it against the wall, sobbing as it shattered. That's when the basement door flew open downstairs with a bang that shook the whole house. A gust of wind roared up the steps, reeking of damp earth and that same rotting flower sweetness. And then I heard it, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, climbing toward me. Not the light creaks of Elaine's weight, but something heavier, uneven, like whatever was coming had trouble remembering how to use legs. The shadows in the hallway stretched too long, the walls breathing in and out like a living thing. I stumbled backward, my hip slamming into the counter as the first hand gripped the door frame at the bottom of the stairs. Pale, fingers too long, nails blackened like old blood. The thing that emerged from the basement wasn't Elaine, not anymore. It wore her face like a poorly fitted mask, the skin sagging and translucent as wet paper. Its mouth stretched too wide when it smiled, revealing teeth filed to jagged points. "Robbie," it rasped, but the voice was all wrong. A chorus of whispers layered over grinding glass. I backed into the kitchen counter, my fingers closing around a butcher knife. The thing tilted its head, black liquid oozing from its nostrils. "You called me." Every hair on my body stood up. It was right. I'd invited it in. I'd begged for a sign. The air thickened, pressing against my lungs like I was drowning. Then it lunged, not at me, past me, toward the hallway mirror. Its reflection wasn't a reflection at all, but a writhing mass of darkness with hundreds of eyes. That's when I understood this wasn't a ghost. It was something else that had been hiding in the walls, feeding on my grief, learning her from the scraps it found. I swung the knife, not at the thing, but at the mirror. The glass exploded, and the scream that followed wasn't human. It was the sound of 100 radios tuning to static at once. The lights flickered madly, and for a split second, I saw Elaine's real face in the shards, her eyes wide with terror. "Run," she mouthed. So I did. I ran out the back door into the rain, barefoot and shaking, and didn't stop until I collapsed at the neighbor's porch. The house burned down that night. Gas leak, the fire marshal said. But I know the truth. Sometimes, when I drive past the empty lot where our home used to be, I roll down the window. Just once, I swear I caught a whiff of Chanel No. 5 on the breeze. But now, I keep driving. My name's Jake, and back in 2019, I was scraping by as a night shift janitor at some corporate office building in the suburbs. The job sucked, but it paid just enough to keep my crappy studio apartment. Most nights, I dragged myself out around 2 a.m., bleary-eyed and craving caffeine. So I'd hit this 24-hour gas station off Route 17, the only place open at that hour. That's where I first saw them. It was a Thursday, I think, because I remember the clerk restocking the slushy machine, humming some off-key pop song. I grabbed a Mountain Dew and a bag of pretzels, and as I walked back to my beat-up Corolla, I noticed a car parked way at the far end of the lot. No lights, no movement, just this boxy, old-model sedan, the kind your grandpa might have driven. The streetlights reflected off its windshield, so I couldn't see inside, but I felt it. Someone was in there. Watching I brushed it off, figured it was just some dude sleeping off a bender or a trucker catching a nap. But when I pulled onto the highway, I spotted the same car in my rear view, hanging back just a little too far to be casual. My stomach dropped. I took the long way home, cutting through side streets, and when I finally turned onto my block, there it was again, parked under a busted streetlight 2 houses down. No headlights, no engine noise, just waiting. I didn't stop. I drove straight past my apartment, hands shaking, and didn't look back until I'd looped halfway across town. By the time I worked up the nerve to go home, the car was gone. I told myself it was a coincidence, that I was just tired. But the next night, it happened again. And this time, the person inside wasn't the same. Friday night rolled around, and I almost called in sick. Just the thought of that car made my skin crawl. But rent was due, so I forced myself to work, jumping at every shadow in the empty office hallways. When my shift ended, I sat in the parking lot for a full 10 minutes, scanning every vehicle. Nothing. Relief washed over me as I pulled onto the road. Maybe it had just been a fluke. But then, at a red light near the gas station, I saw it. Same dent on the rear bumper, same peeling license plate frame. Only now, instead of one shadowy figure, there were 2 people inside. A man and a woman, both staring straight ahead like mannequins. The light turned green, and I floored it, swerving into the next lane to lose them. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears that I didn't stop for soda that night. I didn't stop anywhere. I drove straight home, locked the door, and shoved a chair under the knob like some scared kid. But sleep wouldn't come. Around 4 a.m., a sound jolted me upright, a slow, rolling crunch of gravel outside. I crept to the window and peeled back the curtain. There, idling at the curb, was the car. The interior light flicked on for just a second, and I saw them. 3 people now, all different from before. A woman with stringy blonde hair, a guy in a baseball cap, someone else slumped in the back. None of them moved. None of them even blinked. Then the light cut off, and the car rolled away like nothing happened. I spent the rest of the night with every light in the apartment blazing, gripping a kitchen knife like it could save me from whatever the hell that was. By Saturday, I was a wreck. I hadn't slept more than an hour straight, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw those blank faces staring through the windshield. I tried to rationalize it, maybe a weird Uber pool, a cult, but why would they keep showing up near me? That night, I changed my routine. I left work early, took back roads, even parked behind a diner for 20 minutes just to see if they'd pass by. Nothing. Maybe they'd given up. But as soon as I turned onto my street, my blood turned to ice. The car was already there, parked right in front of my building. And this time, the door was open. Just a crack, like an invitation that I didn't go home. I drove to the nearest police station, my hands shaking so bad I could barely grip the wheel. The cop at the desk listened with this bored expression, like I was some tweaker ranting about aliens. "You got a plate number?" he asked. I didn't. A description of the people? I opened my mouth, then froze. Because the truth hit me, I couldn't describe them. Not really. Their faces were blurry in my memory, like smudged photographs. The cop sighed and told me to call if they did anything illegal. I sat in my car in the station lot for an hour, staring at my phone, wondering if I was losing my mind. Then I saw headlights. Slow, steady, coming toward me. The car that I peeled out of there so fast, I nearly sideswiped a cruiser. This time, I didn't stop driving until the sun came up. I ended up in some nowhere town an hour away, slumped over the wheel in a Walmart parking lot. My phone buzzed, my boss, pissed I'd missed my shift. I didn't care. I needed answers. I called my cousin, a mechanic who knew cars better than people, and described the sedan. "Sounds like an old Crown Vic," he said. "Police used to drive them. You sure it wasn't just some undercover cop?" "No. Cops don't sit in the dark for hours, switching out passengers like some kind of rotating nightmare cast." Sunday night, I armed myself. A tire iron, pepper spray, even a hunting knife I'd bought at a pawn shop. I was done running. I drove to the gas station like usual, my eyes darting to every shadow. And there it was. Same spot, same car. Only now, the backseat was full. For people, motionless, their faces turned toward me. I stood there, frozen in the neon glow of the gas station sign, and did something stupid. I walked toward them. My legs moved on their own, like something was pulling me. The closer I got, the colder the air felt. Then, the driver's side window rolled down. Just an inch. A voice, whisper thin, seeped out. "You're almost ready." I ran. Didn't stop until I was back in my car, speeding down the highway with no destination. That voice, it wasn't human. It was like dry leaves scraping against pavement. I drove for hours, changing directions randomly, until my gas light came on. I pulled into some rundown station in the middle of nowhere, my hands still shaking. As I filled the tank, I caught movement in the distance. A silhouette, standing under a flickering streetlight. Tall, too thin. Watching. I threw the nozzle down, jumped in my car, and the engine wouldn't start. Just clicks. Dead battery. The figure took a step forward. Then another. I fumbled for my phone. No signal. The streetlight above them buzzed, then went out. In the dark, I heard it again, that whisper. Closer this time. "We'll see you soon." I kicked open the door and bolted into the woods behind the station, branches tearing at my clothes. I didn't look back that I don't know how long I ran. Eventually, I stumbled onto a highway, flagged down a trucker, and begged for a ride. He dropped me at a motel 30 miles away. I barricaded the door, called my boss, and quit on the spot. Next morning, I packed what I could carry and left town. Changed my number. Even sold my car. That was 4 years ago. I still don't know what they wanted. Sometimes, though, when I'm driving at night and see a sedan parked a little too still, a little too dark, my breath catches. And last month, I swear I saw it again. Same dent, same peeling license plate frame, idling outside my new apartment. But this time, the door was wide open. Empty, like they were waiting for me to get in. Back in October 2021, my friends Jake, Mara, and I were the kind of bored high schoolers who'd do anything to kill time. Our school, Crestwood High, was built in the 70s and had this creepy-ass condemned wing. Rumors said a kindergartner died there in the 80s, but no one could confirm it. That Friday night, after football practice, we snuck past the construction tape. The windows were boarded up, but one near the back was shattered, glass glinting like jagged teeth in the moonlight. Jake, always the reckless one, climbed in first, his sneakers crunching on debris. The air inside was thick with dust and something else, like wet paper and rust. My phone flashlight barely cut through the dark, but I could see faded cartoon murals peeling off the walls. That's when we noticed the door. Not just any door, a heavy steel one, slightly ajar, with a staircase leading down. The basement smelled like a mix of mildew and something metallic, like old coins left in rain. Mara gagged, but we kept going, our footsteps echoing like we were walking into a throat. The beam of my flashlight caught stacks of files, blackened, like someone had tried to burn them. Jake picked one up, and it crumbled in his hands, ash floating in the air. Then Mara screamed. On the wall, in jagged letters, someone had carved, "They're still here," in what looked like dried blood. My stomach dropped. The photos scattered on the floor were worse. Old class pictures, but every kid's face was scribbled out in red ink, except one. A little boy with hollow eyes, his smile too wide. That's when we heard it, a loud clang from upstairs. The steel door slammed shut, and then footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming down the stairs. We froze. The footsteps were wrong, too heavy, like boots on concrete, but with a weird dragging sound between each step. Jake lunged for the door, yanking the handle, but it didn't budge. "No, no, no," he whispered, panic cracking his voice. Mara's hands shook as she pulled out her phone, but the screen flashed in no service. The basement felt smaller suddenly, the walls pressing in. My flashlight flickered, and in that split-second darkness, I swear I heard breathing right behind me. Wet, ragged. When the light came back, the photos were rearranged. Now in a perfect circle, the unmarked boy's face staring up from every single one. The air turned icy, and our breath came out in white puffs. Then, from the top of the stairs, a voice. "You shouldn't be here." It wasn't human. It was like three voices layered. A child's giggle, a woman's sob, and something guttural, animal. Jake screamed, kicking the door until his sneaker left dents in the metal. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs, but the flashlight only showed empty space. Then, bang, something slammed into the shelves behind us, sending files exploding into the air like black snow. Mara grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. "The window," she gasped. Across the room, barely visible behind stacks of moldy chairs, was a small, grime-covered basement window, too high to reach. The voice came again, closer. "They're still here. And now you are too." The flashlight died. In the dark, something grabbed my ankle. I kicked blindly, my sneaker connecting with something solid, but it didn't feel like a person. It was spongy, like wet cardboard, and it squealed, this high-pitched noise that made my teeth ache. The flashlight flickered back on just in time to see Jake boosting Mara toward the window. She clawed at the rusted latch, her fingers bleeding, but it wouldn't budge. Behind us, the air warped, like heat rising off pavement, and for a second, I saw them, shadows with too many joints, crawling along the walls like roaches. The voice whispered right into my ear, sour breath hitting my neck. "We had to stay. So do you." I swung my arm back, hitting nothing, but the cold clung to my skin like oil. Jake grabbed a broken chair leg and smashed the window. Glass rained down as Mara hauled herself through, her shirt tearing on the jagged edges. She reached back for us, screaming, "Hurry." The shadows surged forward, and the temperature dropped so fast my lungs burned. Jake shoved me toward the window, but something yanked him back. His body jerked like a puppet, legs dragging through the dust. I caught his wrist just as his fingers went slack. His eyes were wide, unblinking, fixed on something behind me. "Don't look," he choked out. "Just go." The window was too small. I had to choose. I didn't let go. My muscles screamed as I pulled Jake toward me, his body fighting against some invisible force. The air smelled like burning hair now, and the shadows were touching him, dark tendrils curling around his ankles, his wrists, like vines pulling him under. Mara's arms hooked under my shoulders from outside, her sobs hot against my neck. "We can't leave him," she screamed. With one final yank, Jake's body lurched forward, and we tumbled backward onto the grass outside. The second we hit the ground, the window slammed shut behind us, like something had thrown its weight against it from the inside. The glass didn't just crack, it splintered, as if something had punched straight through it. We didn't stop running until we hit the parking lot, our lungs raw, Jake stumbling between us like he was drunk. His skin was freezing, his lips tinged blue. When we finally collapsed under a streetlight, Mara checked his pulse and recoiled. His heartbeat was wrong, way too slow, like something was still holding on to him. He wouldn't speak, just stared at his hands like they weren't his. The school loomed behind us, the broken window now just a black mouth and a brick. Then, faint but unmistakable, we heard it again. "You're still here." But this time, it wasn't coming from the school. It was in Jake's voice. Jake's head snapped up, his eyes glassy and unfocused. When he spoke again, his voice wasn't his own. It was that same layered horror from the basement. "They let me out," he rasped, grinning with teeth that looked too sharp in the yellow streetlight. Mara scrambled backward, but I grabbed Jake's shoulders, shaking him hard. "Jake, fight it!" His body went rigid, then convulsed like he was being electrocuted. A wet, tearing sound came from his throat as he vomited something black and thick onto the pavement. It wriggled. We didn't stay to see what it was. Dragging Jake between us, we sprinted to my car, his legs buckling every few steps. In the rearview mirror as we peeled out, I swear I saw small handprints forming in the condensation on the school's windows, like kids pressing against the glass from inside. We drove straight to Jake's house, too terrified to call the cops or an ambulance. What would we even say? His mom took one look at him and screamed. Up close, we could see the bruises forming around his wrists, finger-shaped, but too small to be an adult's. She bundled him into her car for the ER while Mara and I sat on my trunk, shaking. That's when Mara whispered, "Your neck." In the car mirror, I saw them, for faint scratches, like a child's nails had dug into me when I wasn't looking. We burned our clothes that night. Jake was in the hospital for a week with severe shock, but when he came back, he refused to talk about it. He still does. The weirdest part? The school finished renovations without incident. No hidden basement was ever reported. But sometimes, when I pass that wing, I hear a faint giggle and Jake's voice in my head saying, "Don't look."